Welcome to the Tzurba Hilchot Shabbat Program with Rabbi Shalom Rosner. Tzurba is a revolutionary halacha sefer which guides you through over 300 topics in Jewish law in a unique signature style. In this weekly series specifically, Rabbi Shalom Rosner learns through the Tzurba Hilchot Shabbat volumes, helping us all master the Halachot of Shabbat in just 2 years. Tzurba volumes are available for purchase worldwide on Amazon. And to learn more about Tzurba, or for those in Eretz Yisrael looking to purchase volumes, please head over to tzurbaolami.com. For more information, see the description below. And now, Rabbi Shalom Rosner.
This week's Tzurba Shiur is sponsored by Tamar and Mark Leznick to commemorate the yardside of their parents, Esther, Hindä, Bas Arya, Leyb, Halevi, Leznick, Yeshayahu, and Abraham, Barchama. We thank the Leznick family for the sponsorship, and the Neshama should have an Aliyah.
Okay, here we go. The next Tzurba May Rabbanan Shiur and Hilchot Shabbos. We are in volume number 20, Shiur number 4, the Halachos of Animals on Shabbos, part 2. But we split every Shiur into 2, so this is really Shiur number 3 relating to animals. But this Shiur is dedicated in the merit of Refuah Shalema of Anat Chana Bas Pola, and in honor of all of the incredible Torah that Tzurba provides to help people learn and transform their lives. Of course, it's the Lax family edition of the Tzurba May Rabbanan series, the Nayaza family volume. We thank all of the support for the publication and the promulgation of the Torah of Tzurba. So this year we'll talk about animals, more issues of animals on Shabbos. Specifically, the malacha, we spoke about sod in the last 2 shiurim, but we're going to talk about the malacha of shochet, the malacha of killing animals, killing dangerous animals. What about lice? What about getting lice out of hair? What does one have to worry about there? That's this year. The next year, we'll talk about muksa. That will be the transition into all of our muksa shiurim. Animals being muksa and feeding animals and Shabbos Shira. So let's get into that right now. So we will start on page 171. We know there is a malacha of shochet, of killing. One is not allowed to kill on Shabbos. And the Gemara says in Masechah Shabbos Daf Ayin Hey that there's even a shita that every time I shecht, I'm actually doing 2 malachas. If I kill, I'm not only doing the malacha of killing, shochet, but I'm doing the malacha of tzovea, coloring, because the animal's neck becomes colored from the blood. Says the Gemara, Vashochto, shocha mishamayim achayev. Rav amar mishum tzovea. Rav says because of the malacha of coloring. Ushmuel amar mishum netilas neshama. Shmuel says it's the malacha of taking a life. Mishum tzovea in, mishum netilas neshama lo. What does that mean? Shmuel says if you shecht, you're only chayav for coloring and not for shechting. Ema af mishum tzovea. It means so also coloring. It's chayav for both. And Rav wonders, Amar Rav milsa da amri ema b'milsa. Let me explain. Rav, who says the malacha is for both shochet and tzovea, let me explain so that later generations, the lolesi dari basroi v'lechol, I don't want later generations to laugh about me. What kind of tzovea? What do you care? What do you care if the animal's neck gets colored? So Rav says, yes. Tzovea b'may nichale, nicha delisvas beis shchita dama, the shochet, the butcher, is happy if there's shiny red blood on the neck. They'll see the meat is fresh. It was just shechted, and therefore there will be the kofsimal of konim. The konim will want to buy. So this is the malacha of shochet. There is just in brackets. I think we touched on this in the past also. There is a malacha the Gemara talks about in many places called chovel, wounding. Which av malacha is the malacha of chovel? That is very not clear. There's no Gemara explicitly. There is a Yerushalmi in Masechah Shabbos that gives an impression. But in the Bavli, there's no explicit Gemara that chovel mishum which malacha. So there are numerous different approaches. The Rabbeinu Tam says it's shochet. Right, shochet, because you move blood around, you give somebody a black and blue mark, and taking the blood out, malikat lakula, malikat lapalka. Rabbeinu Tam borrows that phrase from a different context in halacha. The Rambam says it's dash. The Rambam says it's threshing, like taking a seed out of a kernel, taking blood out of the area that it's supposed to be, milking a cow, is also dash according to the Rambam. That's the Rambam. Rashi says that chovel is sovea, coloring. So, different opinions. But anyway, back to our case. The malacha of shochet, malacha of killing an animal on Shabbos, is aser deoraisa. Which animals are included? So the Rambam says in source number 2 in Hilchot Shabbos on page 172, Ashochet chayiv, v'lo shochet bilvad, not only a shochet, ela kol. Now you don't have to do halachic shchita to be chayiv on Shabbos. Ela kol hanotel neshama la'echad mikol minei chayiv behema va'of. If anybody takes the life of any animal, domesticated, non-domesticated, right? Different than sud. Sud, we says with different types of animals. Mino need sod, ein b'mino need sod, but shochet, all animals. V'dug, v'sheretz, a fish, taking a fish out of water, a rodent, an insect, bein meshchita, bein menchir, bein baka, any way of killing them, shechting them, hitting them, chayiv. All those cases, that is the av malacha of shochet. The Rambam does add, if one kills without making a mark, strangulation, hachonek esachayat sheyamus, hariz a toldos shochet. That's a tolda. Still daraisa. Remember, avos and toldos in Shabbos are both daraisa. In Shemitah, avos are daraisa and toldos are darabanan. But in Shabbos, they are both daraisa. The only difference is hilchos karbanos. That's what it says in the first daf of Baba Kama. So the Rambam says, "As a toldo leficha chemel adag b'seifel shamayim v'yidichu at shemeis." Take a fish out of water and let it die. That's chonek, which is the tolda of shochet. So says the Rambam, and it's also quoted by the later poskim, one is not allowed to kill animals on Shabbos. One is allowed to prevent animals in an indirect way without killing them. The Shiur Shabbos quotes that one could spray bug spray or insecticide near the animals so they don't come close. You can't spray it on the animals, that's directly killing them. But you can spray it near them. Says the Shiur Shabbos in source number 3. Mutter l'shtamish betachshir kotel charakim. Person could use an insecticide to distance the charakim, the insects, from the room. Spray. You could also spray in order to keep them away. And always, when you do this, you should always leave the window or the door a little open. This has to do with the last malacha that we did, so they could get out and escape. And you can't spray directly on them, because that would be usher. And you could turn on one of those bug zappers. That's okay before Shabbos. Before Shabbos, you set it all up. Obviously, you can't set it up on Shabbos, the electric. One has to be careful, again, to use these items, the spray or the like, in a careful way, not to kill the insects. Right? The Aruch HaShabbos says spraying directly on them would be killing them. Hazorik balachayim lomayim, or if somebody throws a bug into water or flushes it down the toilet while it's alive, right, that's killing it, and that would be a problem. Right? If I see a bug in my sink, I'm not allowed to turn the water on, because that would be killing it. If there's an ant in the sink, there's a good chance that the animal will die. If somebody is just minding their own business and walking, so generally you don't have to worry. But if there's a whole area that's full of ants, I'm going to walk right onto the ants, that's a problem. So you saw number 1, killing animals is usher on Shabbos, but insecticide, which is preventing animals from coming near me, that will be mutter. What about where there's a real need? Dangerous animals. What about dangerous animals? So the Gemara talks about certain types of animals that are dangerous or semi-dangerous, right? Different types. So again, if there's pikuach nefesh involved, there's nothing to talk about. Pikuach nefesh is not only mutter, but mitzvah and mechuyev. It's pikuach nefesh. If there's an animal that's endangering life, then kill the animal as soon as you can. And if there is an animal that is endangering some people's lives, let's say there's a bee, and there's somebody that's deathly allergic to bee stings, you kill the bee, you kill the hornet, whatever it is, anything that's pikuach nefesh. The Mishnah Berurah says that rabbis have to get up and scream in their shuls to make sure that everybody knows this halacha of pikuach nefesh, docha Shabbos, lichatchila. But our discussion is where it is not a case where there's vadai, but it may likely harm a person, cause pain, but not life-threatening. So, says the Gemara in Masechah Shabbos. Here we go in source number 5 on page 174. Right, the Gemara discusses killing certain animals whose bite can be damaging, and one may kill them if they are chasing a person. Otherwise not. Let's see the Gemara. Amar Rabbi Shalom Rosner Levi. Kala mazikin neharagim b'Shabbos. Any mazikin, any harmful creatures could be killed on Shabbos. Rav Yosef says, but wait a minute, we have a brisa that says 5 specific ones. Chamisha neharagim b'Shabbos. 5 specific creatures can be killed on Shabbos. Ve'elohein, all these types of poisonous animals. Zavuv sheberetz Mitzrayim, some type of a poisonous fly from Egypt. V'tzira shebeninve, some hornet. V'akrav shebechadiev, some type of scorpion. V'nachash sheberetz Yisrael. V'kelev shota b'chol makom. So ask the Gemara, ask Rav Yosef, how could Rabbi Shimon Levi say you could kill all mazikin? This Brisa says you can only kill these 5. Rabbi Yirmiyah, man name Allah dahamid haratz tehid mashabashto. First, Rabbi Yirmiyah says, who says that this is a accurate Brisa? Maybe it's an inaccurate Brisa. Rav Yosef, no. I asked the question, Rav Yosef says, but I have an answer. There's a chilek. When does Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi say you're allowed to kill all mazikin? If they're chasing you. If an animal that is a harmful creature, even if it's not pikuach nefesh, if it's a harmful creature, it can inflict pain, you're allowed to kill it. You're allowed to kill it with everybody. That's by all animals. You're allowed to do it if they're chasing you. If they're not chasing you, so then only those 5. Because those 5 are very harmful. Those 5 you're allowed to kill no matter what, even if they're not chasing you. Amr, if Sheshes adds, Nachash dorso lefituma or Nachash, if you're walking and you see the next step that you're going to take, you're about to crush a snake, you're allowed to keep walking on the snake. Dorso lefitumo. Amr, if Katina akrov dorso lefitumo. So again, to summarize, regarding the 5 specific creatures named in the Brisa, one can kill them even if they're not running after a person, because why? Because they're dangerous, and therefore Machlokas Rashi Rambam. And therefore what? And therefore why are you allowed to kill these 5 animals that are inherently harmful even if they're not chasing you? If animals are chasing you, you're allowed to do it. All harmful animals. But these 5 specific in their own class. Why? So Rashi says it's because the Shita of Rabbi Shimon. Malacha she'en tzricha legufa, as we discussed often. Usually killing is done for what purpose? Because I want when I'm killing. Here I don't want it. It's the opposite. I'm preventing it. So that's Rabbi Shimon Shita, and that's why that's usually an Issa D'Rabbanan. B'makam, potential tsar, it's going to be mutter. The problem is, the Rambam also paskins like this, that these 5, even if they're not chasing you, you're allowed to kill, and the Rambam, remember, paskins like Rabbi Yehuda. Malacha she'en tzricha leguf is an Issa D'Oraisa. So the svara can't be for the Rambam that you're allowed to kill these 5 because it's Malacha she'en tzricha legufa, because that's still an Issa D'Oraisa. So for the Rambam, one would have to say that the reason that you're allowed to kill for the animals is just because of a potential bikuach nefesh. The Rambam writes in Hilchot Shabbos, he paskins like this: Chaya v'remes she'no shchinu amisin vadai. The animals, these chayas and remasim that are vadai, biters and killers, like these 5. He lists the 5 from the Brisa. B'chol makom mutar lahargem b'Shabbos kashiur. When you see them, you're allowed to kill them. V'shar kol mazikin, other mazikin. Ima yuratzan achra, that it depends. If they're running after you, mutar lahargan. V'ima yoshvin mikolman o barchin. But if they're sitting in their place, you're not allowed to. But even if they're sitting in their place, you're not allowed to kill them. But if you happen to be walking and they're under your foot, darso lefitumo, that is going to be mutter. We'll talk about that. But first, so why is it that you're allowed to these 5 that no matter what you're allowed to kill? So Rashi says, usually it's a derabanan. This makes it mutter. The Rambam can't say that, so the Maggid Mishnah explains the Rambam. Source number 8, Maggid Mishnah explains the Rambam. Just seeing these creatures, the possibility is enough of pikuach nefesh. That's how the Rambam understands. And the Shulchan Aruch paskins this way, unclear. I mean, the Rambam and Rashi both quote the Gemara, so it's unclear what the svara is, but the Shulchan Aruch quotes it. Shulchan Aruch in Shinta Zayin, Kol chaya v'remes she'no shchinu amisin vadai. All animals that are inherently dangerous and there's a good chance that they'll bite. If they bite and kill, then you kill that. It's the pikuach nefesh. Ne'eraga b'Shabbat afil ein ratzon acharav. V'shar kol mazikin, but others could go nachash v'akar v'makam she'enim amisin. Other animals that in a place where they're not dangerous. So then, if they're running after you, if they're wild, and ratzon acharav mutar lahargan v'imlav aser. If they're not running after you, you can't. But you could just happen to be misasek and walk on them lefi tumo and kill them that way. Afil b'miskavein. El Shemar Atzmo Kilo Einim Skavein, because it doesn't look like you are killing. And the Mishnah Berurah summarizes these positions of the Rambam and other Rishonim. He quotes the Rambam at the beginning of source number 10 in Shinta Zayin, and then he quotes Rov Rishonim. According to the Rambam, the issue here is only Safi Pikuach Nefesh. But other Rishonim say this is not about Safi Pikuach Nefesh. It's a Malach Gufa, so even if it's less than Pikuach Nefesh, it's still going to be mutter. Niuladidan, says the Mishnah Berurah, top of 177. It's a chamer d'Rabbanan, but it's still only d'Rabbanan. Av she'ein savi bikuach nefesh klal, shori mishum tzara ba'alma, kedei shelo yuzak. Even without any savi bikuach nefesh, still tzara ba'alma. Tzara ba'alma is enough, the potential tsar. V'dafka, right? Like what if some in a sukkah, there are bees in the sukkah, and there are bees and hornets that could really give pain. So, if they're flying around and they're involved with people, so if you could shoo them away or even trap them, the Rashba says in source 11, it's better to trap than to kill. It's not as nikar. So then you kill them. But better to trap them and get them out of the sukkah. But let's go back to the Mishnah Berurah for a minute. These are inherently painful. They'll give an ukitz. Even though they don't kill, but they can give terrible pain, then you're allowed to. But if it's just little annoyances like mosquitoes or fleas, those you can't kill. Okay, it'll be uncomfortable. You get a mosquito bite. As long as you're not allergic to mosquitoes. Mosquito bites, so they're annoying. So shoo them away. But you can't kill them. Just shoo them away. And again, the Rashba that I just mentioned says the reason that you would be able to just walk on them, right, even in the case where they're not running after you, is because it's shinui. That's another it's like a double derabanan. It's lachshes legufa and shinui, and there so you could do it lefi tumo. The Lavush has a little different shot of this. The Lavush says maybe walking on it is not mishum shinui, but because it's less marazayin. It's less marazayin. If people see you killing it, so then it could lead to a slippery slope and people killing animals that they're not allowed to kill. That's the Lavush in Shinta Zayin in source number 12. Mutter lo darsam alichas lefi tumo. I feel a bit miskavin. To malachin yisvichal gufa he human Torah mutter v'achal lo gazru mazikin. It's an issa d'Rabbanan. In this case, lo gazru in cases of potential pain. El shemara atzmo mebnei haroeh ki'ilu eina miskavin shelo yomru zeh notal neshama b'Shabbos. People shouldn't think that that's what you are doing. So some lamaisa cases, and summary is in the Archa Shabbos here in source number 13. So again, we started off not allowed to kill animals on Shabbos. But these are cases where there are dangerous animals, not just pikuach nefesh, but dangerous in terms of inflicting harm. Says the Archa Shabbos 13. Baalei chayim sheneshichasa misukenes, baalei chayim that their bite is dangerous. Ko nachash o akravo arsi mo kelav shote muter lahargan. That's muter. I feel einam iskar v'melav even if they're not near you, they're in your vicinity. Go kill them. And also killing a hornet or a bee, that's near a person who is allergic, known, it's very dangerous for them. And not doesn't have to be the person that's allergic kills them. Anybody there could kill. Animals that their bite is painful but not dangerous. Depends. If they're ratzin acharav, then you're allowed to kill them. If they're chasing. If they're not chasing, then you got to do a beshinoi. Rak l'darsim lefi tumo, bofet shadavar niris, so it doesn't look like you are killing them. But other just annoyances like fleas or mosquitoes or something like that, says the Archa Shabbos, those one is not allowed to kill. So this is in terms of the isser of shchita, and then the isser of the heter when shchita is a little bit allowed. But then we get to the very remarkable sugya of lice, kinim. What's so remarkable about this? The Gemara says, at least according to one opinion, there's no problem with killing lice on Shabbos. No problem. What's different about lice than any other animal? Remember the Rambam we saw. It doesn't matter if it's chaya or behema, any animal. Right? You're not allowed to kill. Says the Gemara, Shabbos Kufzai. The Tanya, source 14, Rabbi Eliezer Omer, Hahorikina b'Shabbos, Korig Gamal b'Shabbos. Killing a louse is like killing a camel. Rabbi Eliezer says there's no difference. Lice are like any other animal. You're not allowed to kill any animal on Shabbos. Ad kan lo pli Rabbanan Rabbi Eliezer el bakina, and the Rabbanan who allow it are only by lice. Why? De'ena para v'rava. Because they don't reproduce in the normal way. The Gemara seems to say that because they have spontaneous generation, right? They are come from the rotting area of a food or the like, so they don't reproduce in the normal way with a parent organism and a offspring organism, and therefore the shchita is only subject by animals that are paran v'ravin. But the Rabbanan agree by all other animals. The machlokas is by an animal like a louse, where there's no paran v'ravin. What's the svar? V'shneim lo lamdu elim ha'elim. And they learn it from the animals, the rams that they used to use their hides to cover the Mishkan, right? Moros elim ma'adamim, the curtains that were on top of the Mishkan. Rabbi Eliezer savar ke'elim. Rabbi Eliezer says it's like the shechita applies to all animals that are like rams. Ma'elim sheish b'hem netilas neshama, just like rams are subject to getting killed. Of course, sheish b'hem netilas neshama. So to any animal that's subject to getting killed. That's it. It's subject to shchita. V'rabbanan savri, unbelievable, ke'elim. Ma'elim paran v'ravin, afkol paran v'rava. Rams reproduce. There's mother and child and offspring organisms, so that's all it applies to. Okay. And the Gemara even says there was some Amoram that actually did this, that were matir. The Gemara says on Shabbos earlier in the Masechta Daf Yud Beis, Uraba, source 15, Mekatelu, Rev Sheish Mekatelu. They used to kill their lice. Rava Shadilei Lekana Demaya. He used to throw it in water. Only Rav Nachman Labante, Ketolin, Bashmir Lekala Disanvasi. Yet there was no problem. No problem. Tayyib Shebet Elazar Omer, Machlokes. Beis Shammai says Ein Hargin. Beis Hillel says Matirin, and this is quoted in Shulchan Aruch. The Shulchan Aruch says Mutter, Kina, Mutter Lahargo in source number 16. What's the problem here? What's the problem here is that we know, based on our medical science, that that's not true. There's no spontaneous generation. Lice reproduce also, like all other animals. They lay eggs, and those eggs, right, the lice are drawn to the rotting fruit, and they lay eggs, and the eggs hatch, and they are paran v'ravin. And therefore the question is then, okay, so does the halacha change? The Gemara says they're in paran v'ravin, therefore it's mutter. So is that heter strong enough to say, even though we know the mitzius that halacha was based on is not true? So this is one of the classic examples of trying to figure out Chazal and science and halacha, which we're not getting into the whole topic right now, but this is always discussed. There are 2 or 3 examples discussed. This is discussed, Mayim Shalanu in Meseches Psachim, that why the water is warmer in the morning, the sun goes under the earth. Right? There's a whole discussion about that also. And certain types of trephos from Meseches Chulin are discussed. So it says already the Pachad Yitzchak, Rabbi Yitzchak, Lampranti, 1600s, he says, you can't kill lice on Shabbos. Because the whole heter was based on the idea they're einam paran v'ravin. But now we know they are paran v'ravin. So, yesh lahachmir. Says the Pachad Yitzchak, V'aniat sa'ir akosei. Pachad Yitzchak is an encyclopedia on Agada, on Halacha. It's a huge work. Many, many volumes. Says the Pachad Yitzchak, Ilav de mistafina amina de bizbanenu. Right? If I wasn't scared, that always means he's going out on a limb, he's saying a chiddush gadol, de bizbanenu. Shechachmea told us he be to Ru, that our scientists figured out, v'yadu v'kasu, to call balcha yiyeh mishayiyeh, all animals and beings, min ha-beitzin, they come from eggs. V'kol ze ochicha b'rayas bruas, they proved it. V'yim kain shomer nafshu yircha behem. So a shomer nafshu should distance oneself from this heter. V'lo yereg lo parosh v'lo kina. V'al yachaz atzma b'savich yivchadas. It's a savik daraisa. Savik daraisa. You don't want to mess around. He says, I asked my Rebbe, Rabbi Yehuda Bril, Nero Yair, mi Manitoba, and he said, mutter, why? The Gemara says mutter, it's mutter. She'ein l'shanos hadinim am yisrael ha'kavalas kadmonenu b'shel chakiras chach v'yubas ha'olam. Just because the non-Jewish scientists came up and figured something out, that's not going to change the halacha based on Chazal. Says the Pachad Yitzchak, the lav kol mili, this Rebbe Gemara, v'pi kabbalahim. I don't think so. I think the Gemara sometimes can be, in quotes, wrong about certain scientific facts. They went based on the science of the times, says the Pachad Yitzchak, and no, I don't think this is a case. And therefore, the Pachad Yitzchak says, Yesh lahachmir. But others say, no, like his Rebbe said. If you look in the Dor Revi, the Revi was the 4th generation of a Chassam Sofer. That's why Rav Moshe Shmuel Glasner named his Sefer Dor Revi, 4th generation from the... It's a Sefer on Chulin. So in the Hagdama there, he talks about this, and he says, Chazal say it's mutter, it's mutter. Dor sha'achar chasimas haTalmud yimatzei shebali haTalmud to ein lano l'mashes kimu arishonim. The chiddush here is that it's even lakula. Even lakula, one would be allowed to kill lice. Tira masha baskinim barachayim. The example that he quotes is, even if you find signs different, hahori kida b'Shabbos potter, to call elo me'atzman karvu ve'in aparin v'ravin. They're not aparin v'ravin. Ube'emes bizbanenu, he writes in source 18, muska machach wazateva, it's known. The leka bal chai b'li period v'rivya. There's no being that doesn't reproduce. Again, you could have different views about how to understand this. You might say that the halacha is the true halacha. The reason is just secondary. If you look at Rav Dessler, he has an amazing shot. In a footnote, in Rav Dessler, Rav Carmel, who wrote all the footnotes, he quotes a letter. It's in the 4th volume of the Michtam Elio. He talks about 3 cases there. 3 cases of I think it's the paw, the scratch of a cat, whether that's dangerous or not, Maim Shalanu, and this case. And it says Rav Dessler. This is a classic trying to put together Chazal and science. Einan Parin Varavin might not mean Einan Parin Varavin. Maybe Chazal meant, and even if we might find out that it is Parin Varavin, since halachically that can only be determined with a microscope, and you can't see it in the naked eye, it's ki'ilu, it's not parin v'ravin. And that's all the halacha demands. Says Rav Dessler, amazing, 19. Fa'klal yadua, she'ein halacha mitchasheves el b'masha murgash l'chushim. Halacha only goes by what the senses can feel, right? There's a big discussion like this, the Aruch HaShulchan has this, by bugs in the water, right? Or in, only bugs you can see with the naked eye. That's the only issue of insects in food. Ulafiza says Rav Dessler, Ulaini tan lomar. Since the egg of the kina is so tiny, you couldn't see it in the days of old without the special types of kelim. Ein halacha mitchasheves yimaklal. The halacha does not take it into account. It's ki'ilu halachically considered as if it came from the rot. As if we don't believe it's spontaneous generation, but it's ki'ilu, it has that status because you can't see it with the naked eye. It's an inferior type of being, and there is no isur daraisa of killing. And even if you can't find a better reason, but the din is emes, Rav Dessler. And there are other poskim that say that too. Rav Nevitzal in his Mishnah Berurah quotes Rav Shlomo Zalman also, who said like Rav Dessler, you go by what you can see. You can't see it parin v'ravin, and that you can say that's what Chazal meant. Rav Shlomo Zalman mutter. Rav Nevitzal himself says, I'm not sure if the kinim. Maybe another answer is that the kinim of yesteryear are not the same kinim that we have today. Maybe they're talking about a different type of louse, a different type of flea, and therefore I wouldn't mess around. The Aruch HaShabbos does quote Rav Yashiv in a case generally that one should be machmir. But what if you have a child who has lice in their hair and it's very, very uncomfortable, significant distress, and when you take it out, obviously you're going to kill the lice. It's part of when you take it out. So we discussed about combing hair, about making sure you don't take any hair out. That's gozes. But to be very careful about that. But what about with the hands? Trying to take the lice off. So it says, Yashiv, in that makom tzarech, maybe what could be mekel? Right, in source 21. In a situation where the kinim are very painful, or even you could spray a substance, right? Getting them off with a lice comb, you can't. That's going to be gozes. You're going to take hair outs, and just it's going to be very difficult with your hands. But at least killing them, maybe it'll stop the itch. So spraying the hair to kill them, that could be mutter. Mutter Rashi la Rosh Chomer Kotel Kinim to welcome Tsar Gadol Yesh Lisboch al Pashtus Yid the Gemara Lahatir. Wow, but welcome Tsar Gadol, you can rely on the heter of the Gemara. Again, Lamaskad, it seems like a numerous poskim say one shouldn't unless there's a real tzarech, like this case was just said, and I want you to keep that in mind. The last point to mention for this year is relating to shechting and killing lice. What about trapping lice? So we spoke about trapping is maybe it's not going to be asur daraisa because it's not mino nitzod if you remember the categories that we had in the past shiurim. But if you look on page 184, we have the Ramban and the Ran that explain why it is that just Rishonim say that just like killing lice would be mutter on Shabbos because they're not part of a Ravin, trapping lice would also. But there's a different reason. The Ramban says it's the same reason. The Ramban says Einam Parim V'Ravin excludes them from Shchita and excludes them from Seder. Right, that's what the Ramban says. Bashe'ein bahem mafrim umar bim klal pater ulachadchila nami mutter bein latzud bein laharog. That's the Ramban. In the Ran, these are it's called Miyuchas Laran because we found the real Chidushei Aran. So we have the Chidushei Aran on Shabbos and there's Miyuchas Laran. There's another Rishon called Miyuchas Laran. Anonymous work as of now. We think is anonymous, and that is because the malacha of Tzeid of Shchita wouldn't be da'oraisa by these animals. That's why Tzeid is going to be mutter. Not because it's also a parallel reason of Einam Parim V'Ravin, but the malacha of Tzeidah would only be a problem by animals that there's an issue to trap. Pirish patur avalasur dilba katole, because you might have to kill them. Habachal shemuter lahargo ve'ibiminotzot. Any animal that you're allowed to kill, you're not allowed to kill. Even the animals of ibiminotzot are not allowed to kill. But if there are any animals that you're not allowed to kill, any animals that you are allowed to kill, and ibiminotzot, then there wouldn't be a problem of trapping. So a different svara than the Ramban gives. Okay, this is part one of this discussion. Next time we'll get to moving animals and feeding animals, important issues, transitioning us into our sugyas of muksa. Okay, have a great day.